yato nivayad itaratas chartesu avikya swarat tene brahma hridaya adhikavaye muyanti yatsuraya tejo varimedam yata vinimayo yatra trisargo misha Damna svena sada nirasta kuhakam satyam param dhimahi. O my Lord Shri Krishna, son of Vasudeva, O all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth and the primeval cause of all causes, of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of the manifested universes. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations. And he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji, the original living being. By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion, as one is bewildered by the illusory representations of water seen on fire or land seen on water. Only because of him do the material universes, temporarily manifested by the three modes of nature, appear factual, although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna, who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode, which is forever free from the illusory representations in the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. Dharma prochita kaitravotra paramo nirmatsananam satam vedyam vastavam atra vastu shivadam tapatrayon mulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kim Vapare Ishwaraha Sadyohide Avarudyate Tra Kriti Bihi Susu Subhistakshana. Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated. This Bhagavata Purana propounds the highest truth, which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Such truth uproots the threefold miseries. This beautiful Bhagavatam, compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity, is sufficient in itself for God realization. What is the need of any other scripture? As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam, by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within his heart. Nigama kalpataror galitam phalam sukumukad amrita dravya samyutam pipata bhagavatam rasam malayam muhur ahorasika bhuvibhavakaha. O expert and thoughtful men, relish Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of a desired tree of Vedic literatures. It emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadeva Goswami. Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful. Although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all, including liberated souls. Shinvatam swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridyantaksto Abhadrani Vidurnati Suhitsatam. To hear about Krishna from Vedic literatures or to hear from him directly from the Bhagavad Gita. Or to hear from him directly through the Bhagavad Gita is itself righteous activity. And for one who hears about Krishna, Lord Krishna, who is dwelling within everyone's heart, acts as a best-wishing friend and purifies the devotee who constantly engages in hearing of him. In this way, a devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge. As he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam and from the devotees, he becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 13, Verse number 34. Pritari uparate pando sarvan na suhida sisun arak satam vyasanata pritrivyo kvagata vita. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. When my father Pandu fell down, and we were all small children, these two uncles gave us protection from all kinds of calamities. They were always our good well-wishers. Alas, where have they gone from here? Text 35. Sutta Uvacha, Kripaya Sneha Vaikalavyaat, Suto Viraha Karsita, Atmeshwaram Achaksano, Napratyahati Piditaha. Sutta Goswami said, because of compassion and mental agitation, Sanjaya, not having seen his own master, Dhritarashtra, was aggrieved and could not properly reply to Maharaj Yudhisthira. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Sanjaya was the personal assistant of Maharaj Dhritarashtra for a very long time, and thus he had the opportunity to study the life of Dhritarashtra. And when he saw at last that Dhritarashtra had left home without his knowledge, his sorrows had no bound. He was fully compassionate toward Dhritarashtra because in the game of the battle of Kurukshetra, King Dhritarashtra had lost everything: men, money, and at last king and queen had to leave home in utter frustration. He studied the situation in his own way because he did not know that the inner vision of Dhritarashtra had been awakened by Vidura. In that, therefore, he had left home in enthusiastic cheerfulness for a better life after departure from the dark well of home. Unless one is convinced of a better life after the renunciation of the present life, one cannot stick to the renounced order of life simply by artificial dress or staying out of the home. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So what's very interesting in this purport is the phrase inner vision of Dhritarashtra. So it seems that Sanjaya misunderstood the transformation that Dhritarashtra, Maharaj Dhritarashtra went through due to the merciful and often very cutting preaching of Vidura. Vidura being a pure devotee, in this particular instance, did not mince his words. He was very, very forceful in explaining to Dhritarashtra what his shameful position was, accepting the hospitality and protection of Yudhishthira Maharaj because of his desire for sense gratification. What was his sense gratification? He wanted to be king of the Kuru dynasty empire, which included the whole world. And Yudhishthira accorded him that respect as being the, let's say, titular head of the entire kingdom. Although Yudhishthira was the king, still he treated Dhritarashtra with utmost respect and protection. So he had an inner awakening or inner vision. So Prabhupada says, he studied the situation in his own way because he did not know that the inner vision of Dhritarashtra had been awakened by Vidura, and that therefore he had left home in enthusiastic cheerfulness for a better life after departure from the dark well of home. So here we see these different adjectives are very descriptive. Prabhupada says the dark well of home. Under kupam, it's like a dark cave. So the existence in the home where there is sense gratification, where there's a comfort zone, where one is lax in strictly following Krishna consciousness, is compared to a dark well, where a person is basically asleep spiritually, simply eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. So Vidura was capable by his purity to awaken Dhritarashtra from this stupor of materialistic attachment. So this is why a empowered preacher like Vidura is a murderer. He murders one's desire for sense gratification. That's good murder. Say, murdering somebody's desire for sense gratification, shattering their hopes to find a situation in the material world where they're going to be happy materially and sustainable sense gratification. There's no such thing. The whole thing is an illusion. But yet people, hope against hope, are striving for such a situation. Sustainable, uninterrupted sense gratification, but it's not possible. So it took Dhritarashtra a long time to understand this, and it's just like Prabhupada says, to make a devotee, you have to spend gallons of blood. Gallons of blood. Well, you can just imagine how weak and tired you become if you give gallons of blood. In fact, you approach death. But that's how much you have to expend in order to make a devotee, answering all their questions, mentoring them, protecting them, and always being there to help them in their difficult moments. And there are always difficult moments in the life of a devotee, just like here it says that King Dhritarashtra had lost everything, men and money, and at last the king and queen had to leave home in utter frustration. Well, that's not what really happened. At least King Dhritarashtra was happy. Now, he had enthusiastic cheerfulness for a better life after departure from the dark well of home. And now Prabhupada says, unless one is convinced of a better life after renunciation of the present life, one cannot stick to the renounced order of life simply by artificial dress or staying out of the home. So that means you have to actually believe that there is a spiritual world which is eternal. You have to actually believe that you do have a spiritual body which is eternal and a relationship with Krishna, the Supreme Eternal and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You have to actually believe these things. Mayavadis don't believe it. Atheists don't believe it. And Buddhists don't believe it. But Krishna conscious devotees not only believe it, they're absolutely certain that such a thing exists. And therefore, they're never, let's say, sidetracked in their quest for Krishna's transcendental abode. Actually, Krishna's transcendental abode is manifested here also. Krishna comes himself. Wherever he is, it is Vrindavan, it is Goloka, it's the spiritual world. So he comes to the material world to give a taste of the transcendental life in the spiritual world. So we should never doubt these things. We have to have faith in the words of the acharyas. We have to have faith that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that there is Vaikuntha and Goloka Vrindavan. And Goloka is the place of cows. It's a place where there are many cows, and they're happy cows, and they're surabhis, and they give not only milk, but they can give any kind of opulence. Therefore, such places, therefore Vaikuntha and Goloka are places of extreme opulence, where it is very, let's say, evolved in Vaikuntha, but in Vrindavan, it's the pristine, natural opulence of the spiritual nature. So, we hear about these things, and then if we have faith in the genuine devotees of Krishna, then gradually we also develop faith in the scriptures and Shastra, and we begin to believe this and forget all the other nonsense that people want to force us to believe through mundane education. So unless one is convinced of a better life after renunciation of the present life, one cannot stick to the renounced order of life simply by artificial dress or staying out of the home. So Prabhupada also explains in the Bhagavad Gita, the 18th chapter, he says, and this is important for us, one who is in Krishna consciousness should not give up earning money out of fear that he's performing fruitive activities. If by working one can engage his money in Krishna consciousness, or if by rising early in the morning one can advance his transcendental Krishna consciousness, one should not desist out of a fear or because such activities are considered troublesome. Such renunciation is in the mode of passion. Yeah, if you stop these activities. The result of passionate work is always miserable. If a person renounces work in that spirit, he never gets the result of renunciation. And then also, Prabhupada explains that it is said in Bhagavad Gita that one can never give up work at any time. Therefore, he who works for Krishna and does not enjoy the fruit of results, who offers everything to Krishna, is actually a renouncer. Now, this is the important point. There are many members of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness who work very hard in their office or in the factory or some other place, and whatever they earn, they give to the society. Such highly elevated souls are actually sannyasis and are situated in the renounced order of life. It is clearly outlined here how to renounce the fruits of work and for what purpose fruits should be renounced. So these are grihastha sannyasis. Imagine that. Have you ever heard of that, Prabhu? Grihastha sannyasis. You ever hear of that phrase?
Grihastha sannyasi?
Yeah. You ever hear that phrase? You have? You haven't. Probably not. Yes. 1811. These are grihasta sannyasis. They're grihastas, but they're acting like sannyasis. See? There are many members of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness who work very hard in their office or in the factory or some other place, and whatever they earn, they give to the society. Such highly elevated souls are actually sannyasis and are situated in a renounced order of life. It is clearly outlined here how to renounce the fruits of work and for what purpose fruits should be renounced. So the Grihasta Sannyasi doesn't say, 1 for Krishna, 2 for me. 2 for Krishna, 4 for me. 4 for Krishna, 8 for me. 8 for Krishna, 16 for me. They don't calculate that like that. They calculate everything for Krishna. So this is the art of work in the material world, by which one is not touched by karma. Therefore it said, Kurvani baha karmani jajiva chek chatam samaha evam tvayi nanyate tosti na karma lipyate nare. Not karma lipyate nare. They are not touched by karma. Why? Because all their activities are dedicated to serving Krishna. This is the second verse of the Ishopanishad, where it says, one may aspire to live for hundreds of years if he continuously goes on working in that way meaning everything for Krishna. Krishna is the supreme proprietor. For that, and Krishna has set aside for everyone their minimum needs. For that sort of work will not bind him to the law of karma. There is no alternative to this way for man. In other words, any other way of living other than this is not an alternative, because it will only entangle us more and more in the cycle of birth and death. So also in the Bhagavad Gita, let's see where this is. There's similar verses like this, 420. Let's see where that is. It says, yeah, 421. Nirasya yatachitatma tyakva sarva parigraha sariram kevalam karma kurvam napnoti kilbasam. Such a man of understanding acts with mind and intelligence perfectly controlled, gives up all sense of proprietorship over his possessions, and acts only for the bare necessities of life. Thus working, he is not affected by sinful actions, by sinful reactions. So, nakarma lipyate nare, here it says, kurvan napnoti kilbasam. Exactly the same thing. So, this is what we should strive for, to become grihasta sannyasis. How's that sound, Prabhu? Instead of calling you so-and-so grihasta, we're going to call you grihasta sannyasi. Yeah, just give all your money to the temple. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Any questions?
The last sentence of the Srila Prabhupada quote, unless one is convinced of a better life after renunciation of the present life, one cannot stick to the renounced order of life simply for artificial dress or staying out of the home. So,
by the way, Prabhupada says women are also sannyasis. Did you know that? He said that in a lecture. I was listening to it yesterday. He said not only men take sannyas, women also take sannyas, but not the dress of a sannyasi, but they live like a sannyasi. Yeah. Go ahead.
yeah, so, say unless one is convinced, with that conviction,
Yeah, well, how do you get convinced? We discussed that yesterday. You become convinced. Go ahead.
yeah, exactly. I mean, that stage of being convinced.
The regular hearing. Regular hearing Bhagavatam. That's the way you become convinced. See? When did Prabhupada say that? We read that.
That's the whole thing, actually. That's the whole thing. How we can practice spiritual life the way we want that. The way to come to that point, being convinced.
That's by hearing Bhagavatam. What do we read every morning? We say that in this way, a devotee develops his dormant transcendental knowledge by constantly engaging in hearing. The dormant transcendental knowledge, we were with Krishna originally. Were you with your mother when you were born? Were you with your mother when you were born? You were not with her?
Well, as a baby, you don't even think of it.
No, but were you or were you not?
Yeah, with the mother.
Okay, can you remember it?
At a certain age, but not right in the beginning when you take birth.
No, you don't remember it. You don't remember being with her.
Correct, yeah.
But would you deny that you were with her?
No, you can't deny it.
You see? The same way we were with Krishna originally. But we've forgotten. You see? But we can't deny it. Because Krishna says that he is the seed-giving father of all living entities. So obviously we were with him originally. But we've forgotten. But we can't deny it because that's our origin. Just like you can't deny you were with your mother. She's the origin of your material body, but Krishna is the origin of your soul. You see? So, therefore, we have dormant knowledge of our relationship with Krishna. We have it, but it's dormant. We've forgotten it, but it's there. So this process of regular hearing and associating with devotees and being engaged in devotional service, what does Prabhupada say? It says, in this way, a devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge. That knowledge is there in our heart. So,
See, I see the problem, Maharaj, is that you give the analogy of the mother because it's a physical mother, you can see.
she's the origin of your body, along with your father's seed.
Right. The problem is that people, they don't have an idea who Krishna is. He's really a person. He's how Krishna is.
No, he is the origin of your soul. Your mother and father, the origin of your body. Right? But he's the origin of your soul. So just like you can't remember being with your mother who gave birth to you, you can't remember being with Krishna. But the knowledge is there. You cannot deny it. And this is proof, this verse that we read every day, that the devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge by regularly hearing. That's the whole point, to hear about Krishna from the Vedic literatures, or to hear from him directly through the Bhagavad Gita is itself righteous activity. And for one who hears about Krishna, Lord Krishna, who is dwelling within his heart, acts as a best-wishing friend and purifies the devotee who constantly engages in hearing of him. In this way, a devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge. There it is, right there. In this way. In this what way? Regularly hearing Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. That's the way. See? So how many people? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Only 7 people out of how many people in this congregation? Or how many initiated devotees? Over 100. So only 7 people are here. How many people should be here? Everyone that's initiated should be here right now. They're not. Therefore, I'm not saying they're not devotees, but it's very easy to be confused, misled. It's very easy to develop laxity in following regulative principles. It's because they're not hearing regularly. This is the process. Stanis-tata-stuti-kitan tanavan manobir. This is what Lord Chaitanya accepted from Ramananda Roy as the best way to become Krishna conscious. Constantly hear. That's what this verse says. Shinvata swakata Krishna. That's why we're reciting it every day. But to constantly hear, you got to wake up. You have to make the decision, I'm going to wake up every morning on time and be there. And I want to hear. I want to see the deities. I want to hear. I want to worship Prabhupada also. Like that. You miss even one day. It's like you missed the train to go back to Godhead. You know, Haribol. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Yeah? What's that? Oh, so Bhakti Chiri Maharaj has left his body.